It's Fred Beck from Fred Talks Fighting. Today, I'm very lucky to be joined by Wade Plemons. So thank you very much for coming on, Wade.
Chilling, man. Having a good Saturday. Actually working on a video as we're about to get on this interview. I had to stop to work on the video, but you know how it is, man. The YouTube scene, always working.
Well, your YouTube channel's on fire right now, getting some mad views. But
Yeah.
before we start, you got a really nice background there. If you just take us on a bit of a that sign you got there, the Wade concept. What was that? Wood?
Yeah, so that's Woodburn. I live in Orange County, California, and this guy made it for me back in 2017 when I first started. My channel was actually supposed to be a combat sports podcast. And if you go back through my catalog, I have, I used to do the live thing where I would do hour-long conversations about big-time fights. And we started it in 2017 and, just been working our tails off and now here we are. So, yeah.
And so before the channel kind of all started, I'm guessing you did a lot of kind of martial arts stuff beforehand.
Yeah. So I moved out to California in 2013 and I just got done playing American football, college football. I played football for 16 years, something like that. And once you get away from one combat sport, that whole, you want to fill it with another one, right? You get that itch to go and do something physical. So I started doing a lot of Muay Thai. There's a Muay Thai gym out here in Irvine, California called Team Oyama. And I went over there and learned a lot about Muay Thai and the different disciplines and fell in love with the sport. And while doing that, fell in love with MMA and the UFC. And it was just a nice little combination of interests. And I started training and then talking about my training, which then led me to talk more about the sport. So, yeah.
And do you still train now, or is it more of a YouTube stuff?
No, I still train. Unfortunately, in the last January, I had knee surgery. I had a torn meniscus in my right knee from training and from just running and doing just overuse. And then one thing led to another, and I had torn my right meniscus. But yeah, I would love to get back in the gym. It's April now. We're supposed to be cleared, but I'm having some trouble getting this knee to work right. But we're gonna start hopefully soon, get back in. And I'll show you in a little bit. I have some really cool new gloves I just got for, well, I shouldn't say just got. I got them for Christmas, but I haven't been able to use them yet. So,
what make are they?
I think they're Sandoval's. The Sandoval anniversary Star Wars edition. So I got some Stormtrooper ones. They're dope.
Yeah, Sandoval, they sponsor quite a lot of UFC fighters, and then they sponsor Michael Bisping. He's one of the ones.
Yeah,
Jason
I got them because I forgot who I saw wearing them. At Team Oyama, there's a UFC fighter name. I think it was Louis Smolka. He was wearing them, and I asked him about it one day because he's one of the teachers over there. I said, "Hey, what are those gloves?" He's like, "Man, these are really good." So of course, a UFC fighter says they're good. I'm gonna go get them, and that's what I went and got those for. But big Star Wars fan, so I like the Stormtrooper one.
Yeah, it's a nice little combination you got there. So move on to your channel, the Way concept. I went on your channel today and I went to your oldest videos and you started off kind of like a podcast. And it's getting like hundreds of views. And now your newest videos, you're getting hundreds of thousands of views. Can you kind of get your head around that? Because how many views are getting right now?
You gotta listen. For me, I mean, you always plan for it to grow. I always tried to make it as best I could as consumer friendly as possible, but as also entertaining and informative. When I started it, I got really discouraged, man, just like every other YouTuber. The consistency was there, but the views weren't. And I just looked at it and went, especially like 4 or 5 months ago, I was like, I'm just going to really put this thing on my back and just grind and go and go and go. And, I think I meet a certain criteria. Obviously, talking about the YouTube boxing is very beneficial. Something I actually like. I used to be one of those guys that kind of looked down on it and was like, this isn't serious. This is not real fighters doing what they love. It's this guy's looking for a paycheck. And to an extent, that is kind of what's happening. But at the same time, I really see a window for guys like the Pauls, like some of these YouTubers that are bringing new people into the sport. So I'm not only not mad at it, I'm actually at this point really excited about what the future holds for YouTube boxing. I wish they do some things differently, but that's what happens. You get the good and the bad with these things.
I mean, they certainly are bringing a lot more, especially Jake Paul and KSI. And Logan, they're bringing a lot more eyes to boxing right now.
Yeah. No doubt about it.
Especially with the amateur scene as well.
Absolutely.
One of the questions I was thinking, because you do a lot of reaction videos, do you ever get copyrighted for any of them?
No. So I like to, I like to think of my reaction videos as breakdowns, right? Where I'm not just kind of watching and being like, oh, that's cool. I like to add a little bit more to it. The way I avoid copyright is it's tough. Like you can't do a lot with, you know, UFC footage. You can't do a lot with broadcast media footage, right? You have to be able to, and this is by trial and error. There's no real, you know, set in stone way to avoid it, but you just have to find ways to either shorten your videos, remove audio, or on the YouTube side of things, you can kind of play around with it a little more and really show a more elongated version of things. And that's why I like doing a lot of the YouTube, is because I can show exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about it, and comment on it and run it back, like all the fun stuff that I like doing versus just an overlay, you know? So it's tough to avoid. And sometimes you got to upload 4 or 5 or 6 videos to get that sweet spot, but it's worth it in the end, because I truly do love doing what I do and breaking down fights and being able to talk about sports and really a sport that I've fallen in love with more over the pandemic, which is boxing. I was never, you know, a super big boxing fan. I was always more of a totality of the martial arts scene. And now that I've been watching the YouTube boxing, fallen in love, back in love with Canelo Alvarez's style. The heavyweights are taking over in the UK, I'm sure, as you know. So that's stuff that I've really, you know, had a time to appreciate, and I've really liked it.
I think like one of the good things about your videos is you add a lot of your personality into it. I mean, a lot of YouTubers, they kind of pretend to be someone they're not. And I kind of feel that if you're yourself in the videos, because everyone's got a different personality. So if you're yourself in the videos, then of course it's going to be different. I know you've been reacting to a lot of True Georgie. True Georgie's quite big here in the UK.
That's the man.
If we start talking about some fights, Jake Paul, he's been on the channel quite a lot. I mean, it's fair to say Jake Paul quite a mixed personality. But when Jake Paul and Ben Askren officially got announced, what were your thoughts on the fight?
You can go back and watch my first video on that fight. And it's funny because I went back and watched them, and I watched the way that I looked at it to begin with because I was interested. I was like, did I have a moment where I decided, you know, this was how I saw the fight? And I remember when it got announced, I said, Jake's going to hurt him bad. I remember saying it. And I remember, you know, after I went back and watched that video, I was like, man, I should have just stuck with what I knew back then. I said it. I was like, man, Jake is going to hurt this guy because all the factors leading into that fight. I even said this on my breakdown afterward and before, really, were that Jake was a far better boxer, and he was going to be that from the first bell till whenever the fight ended. So when I first saw it announced, I was shocked that it was Ben, but at the same time, I wasn't shocked that the Paul family and the Paul team picked Ben. That's how they're going to operate. There's not going to be, I mean, listen, if he chooses to step out on a limb and fight the guys like Tommy Fury, which again, I think is a better matchup for both guys. I don't think it's a landslide for either guy. I think it's actually pretty competitive. I would love to see it, but I do think that Team Paul are always going to put themselves in a position where they see themselves as at least far better than the other opponent. They're not going to put themselves in a compromisable situation. And it's not good business to do it. So fair play to them.
I mean, I'd be very surprised if Jake Paul does fight Tommy Fury. I know that Tommy Fury's beat bum so far, but he is a boxer, and Jake Paul hasn't been a boxer yet.
That's the fight I would love to see. If I'm being honest, I would love to see the KSI fight too, just because of the ramifications YouTube wise. But I think right now, and this is not any disrespect to KSI or his team, I've heard rumblings of him training, and I heard what Jordy said, but the gap between those two, at least from what we've seen, is so big, and the time that they have spent, you know, in actual combat. Like Jake has had 3 fights since the last time KSI fought. It's so far between them. I think Jake walks right through him. I hate to say that. I'm a big KSI fan, but I think the more competitive fight is the Tommy Fury fight, no doubt.
I mean, KSI is working a lot on his music right now. So obviously, his big thing will be boxing. I mean, a lot of people take credit. Well, so there's no, what they'll say is, oh, Jake Paul hasn't beat anyone, but he's still doing a strong training camp. He's still doing sparring, and I guess KSI hasn't really had that. I really don't. Right. I really hope that the KSI Jake Paul fight does happen.
Same. They have to have that one happen at some point.
And then we kind of go into the weigh-ins with Jake Paul and Ben Askren. Jake Paul's a big robot behind him. He does his best impression of Conor McGregor, and kind of Ben turns up with his dad bod. I mean, a lot was said about the press conference and the weigh-ins, and everyone does those, how they're acting, how they're kind of sitting, hands up, kind of that sort of thing. I can't remember the name for it. But then
the body language experts.
Yeah, body
yes.
language.
Yeah.
I never expected in the fight that Jake Paul would knock out Ben Askren in the first round. I thought he would knock him out at some point, but not in the first round because everyone's saying that Ben's just so tough.
Yeah. So I won't knock the people that do the body language analysis. I think it's interesting. I don't know too much about it. So shout out, I believe in Bruce. He's the guy that's kind of the main dude doing it. I never take away a lot from the weigh-ins or the press conferences because again, the things that happen there, they're mostly for entertainment. They're mostly to show people who they're going to see as a personality versus who they're going to see as a fighter, right? Those people are the people that aren't necessarily interested in the fight, but they gain interest because of the drama aspect. So I never put a lot into that on fight night. And I said that in my video, but on fight night, yeah, I got to admit, I was a little surprised at how inept Ben was to cross over, right? And it wasn't because I expected him to be a world championship level boxer. It was more of the fact that I expected him to brace or improve on the things that would come easy to him, which would be to avoid shots, right? Would be to change levels, something he's naturally good at, changing levels into a wrestling exchange, changing levels into a clinch, being able to slip shots because of that level change. And we really didn't see any of that. We saw a very hesitant, dare I say, very nervous Ben Askren on the night. And Jake came out more aggressive than I thought he would. Honestly, what I saw from Jake in the fight was not something that really even surprised me. I mean, I saw the same guy that fought Nate, and that's not like a slight to Jake. He didn't really need to show anything new, right? It was almost an easier fight for him because it was just stand behind your right hand, plant and throw, and one landed. And it landed clean. And I've never seen Ben go down from one shot other than a flying knee. So fair play. Maybe the chin was gone. Maybe the shot landed just perfect. And there you have it. That's how it happens, man.
I mean, the thing is, no one actually really knows how good Jake Paul is at boxing because his fights, credit to Jake, they haven't actually lasted very long. Well,
it's tough to say.
The most is the Jake fight. That's not even a pro fight, really.
Yeah.
You can't count that much. The most is 2 rounds. And that was against Nate Robinson. And he just ran forward with his chin in the air. But if we just head up a few skill sets into the UFC this weekend, I don't take too much of your time, but the UFC this weekend, Kamaru Usman and Jorge Masvidal, the rematch. Last time that Jorge took on 6 days' notice, Usman is convinced that he just did that so he can use the excuse if he lost. But what are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you think comes out on top?
What an excuse to have. I love it. I love the back and forth between them. Both of them have their theories as to why they each didn't perform to the best of their ability because honestly, it's not, I don't think it's the 6-day notice thing because both guys took that fight on 6 days, right? For Jorge, 100%, the weight cut was a huge deal. But again, Kamaru Usman was thinking my fight's done. I'm going home. Like I'm not fighting. So I kind of put that to the side, right? The 6 days. Okay. It's a huge factor for both guys. We call that a wash. Coming into this fight, it's really just going to be what we saw in the first fight, needing some slight adjustments from both guys. Jorge has to stay off the cage. He cannot hang out like you saw him in rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5. Every single time he was either taken down or pinned on the cage, it was because he was standing behind that little black line that you see in the octagon. That's about a 2.5 foot space between him and the cage. You can't be there. You basically are a sitting target for a double leg, a sitting target or a high crotch to just drive you into the fence. Jorge's got to keep his back off on the feet. He's going to piece Kamaru. No doubt about it. He's going to piece him. I would love to see some low calf kicks. If I'm being honest, I would love to see that, especially on the lead leg from Kamaru, because he does stand so heavy on it. Love to see that. But what I realistically see, and I'm a big Jorge Masvidal fan. I love the guy. I think he's one of the best strikers at 170. He's got great head movement. He's fluid. I think he kind of is a mirror of what happened in the first fight. I think he's successful early. I think he defends a lot of takedowns early. I think he shows maybe better cardio and comes forward and stays off the fence for a period of time. But as we go through the fight, Kamaru Usman is one of the best fighters I've ever seen at preying on people's weakness and getting to positions that you don't want him to get to, but you can't stop him from getting there, right? Look what he did to Colby in a kickboxing match. Colby was supposed to be the guy with the gas tank, was supposed to be the guy that was just going to keep going until no one could stop him. And Kamaru not only kept up with his gas tank, but he started to overpower him with the kickboxing. And now he was landing more than Colby in the later rounds, right? And then you look at a guy like Tyron Woodley, where he's able to just absolutely, and this is before we knew that Tyron had to, you know, we'd seen some flashes of him not being able to really pull the trigger on guys and playing it safe, but he made him pay for playing it safe. He was like, you want to wrestle with me? Cool. I'm going to put you on the fence and hold the strongest guy in the division there for 5 rounds. So Kamaru Usman definitely has an ability to make you go to places you don't want to be and keep you there. So I think that's what he does, and he wins the decision.
And remember last time, I think it was Gilbert Burns fight, Kamaru actually got hurt. I haven't seen him hurt in quite a while.
Cracked him with a big overhand. Cracked him with it.
Yeah, we saw Kamaru Usman adjust to that. And the best fighters in the world, they always adjust to the situation. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Hey, man, appreciate that. Fred, you're killing the game, brother. I love the setup. I love the enthusiasm. You're a smart guy, man. You're doing well. Anytime you need me to hop on an interview, anytime you need something from me, man, you just holler at me. You got it, bud.
Thank you so much for your time, Wade. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.